let's keep pushing on that conversation around DevOps and the change. So a wise man, it might have been Untitled Ventures, or it may not have been, but a wise man once said that an organization's DevOps is the heart of their digital innovation. In a time where more and more of this digitization of experience, to your point, Shannon, is happening, DevOps and the effectiveness of DevOps is really the beating heart that needs to keep beating and accelerate this beating during this time where innovation is needed to simplify organizations, take cost out of organizations while helping bring new products to market, new experiences to market. So, and both of you guys are positioned right at the heart of this revolution, which is super exciting. What else are you seeing are the key developments in this DevOps environment that are in flight and will continue to roll out over the next few years that IT teams and CIOs and your customers need to be really aware of about? Maybe, again, back to you, Shannon.
Yeah, John, it's a great question. I think that idea of the DevOps as the beating heart is a really, really good way to think of it, because if you take it a bit further, it's literally about pumping this innovation out to lots of different places quickly. And also, I think where it succeeds, the organization is trying to, fundamentally move faster. Right? It is we can talk about all of the containerization, Kubernetes, how critical these technologies are, CI/CD. At the end of it, it's about rapid innovation. It's about rapid and safe and compliant delivery of new code quickly to place. And I think, what I'm seeing right now is we're moving from a phase where there were these pockets of DevOps adoption that were happening among digital teams or innovation teams or sort of application groups that were moving very quickly. And now it's becoming centralized. So we're going through a centralization phase where organizations are adopting this technology as a platform. They're trying to, kind of solve problems in ways that would benefit lots of people in the organization. And a couple of things that are really important and that they're proving, I think, to be kind of critical in that decision making are, one, trying to, standardize, look at the tools that are most commonly used, look at tools that kind of feel like they're going to be around for a while. It's one of the reasons I think Kubernetes, and Rancher have just taken on so much, gotten so much adoption is the network effect. It's like everyone's hearing about how everyone else is using these same pieces, and the same for GitLab, right? You hear it over and over. Oh, we found it, running GitLab and connecting it up to AWS using Rancher. These things are allowing organizations to get to this continuous delivery goals they have and quicker innovation goals. And so I see this sort of internal, IT adopting platforms, delivering them as shared services being sort of a big shift right now, because, the first, we've been doing Rancher for 6 years. I would say the first 3 to 4 years of Rancher, 90% of my conversations were with individual teams rolling out applications. Today, 60, 70% of my team conversations are with organizations building platforms and talking about, multi-cloud, talking about, centralizing services, saying things like, hey, I know everyone can build a Kubernetes cluster. Maybe they shouldn't build a Kubernetes cluster. Maybe what we really should be doing is building Kubernetes as an organizational platform that anyone can access, but we take that operational burden and bring it in. And that makes sense when you start talking about logging. It makes sense when you start talking about security. Definitely makes sense when you start talking about policy and governance, because what we really are seeing, especially in the large organizations adopting this, is it's half of it is about innovation, and the other half is about implementing controls and implementing policies centrally, and then distributing quickly out to all the places you need to develop. So that's the moment I feel like we're dead in the middle of right now. Policy, centralization, kind of taking what worked really well at small scale and scaling it up.
Fantastic. It's kind of that mirror of the organizational culture as well, and agile going from pockets to how we run the place. It's kind of like a mirror of that in terms of the DevOps. Yeah, exactly it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Because they're so mirrored, right? When you think about Agile and DevOps, they're kind of two sides of the coin. It's just kind of pushing that same agility downward into different parts of the org.
Fantastic. And Mon, how about you? What are you seeing? What are these shifts that are fundamental that organizations need to jump on the bandwagon of?
I totally agree with Shannon. I also think that we've spent the last couple of the decade, and that probably will also continue. Is we love tools, and we keep on buying tools. It's a new toy. Any sort of buzzword or anything, we just keep on buying. And a lot of these tools, they went through phases of proof of concepts, and they're working, and it's getting better and better and better. So the next kind of era would actually be knowing how to actually, it's the tools are the science part, but the art part will also be how to actually use these to integrate and actually be able to solve that business problem. Having that goes back to even centralizations, integrations, making sure, let's say, a DevOps engineer and a QA engineer versus a business owner, a product engineer to a CEO, their languages are all synchronized. They all speak different languages, and that can be synchronized. So a lot of effort into that agility, that collaboration, the single line application. And even just if we just look into the DevOps and we think of literally what is that future of DevOps, what we do see is, we talk about continuous integration and automation, but that is now getting creatively beyond continuous integration to what we call assembly lines, which is just literally taking orchestrating pipelines to different parts. So whether it's security or whether it's machine learning, so it's that simple concept which came out in 2009, continuous integration, but now it's gone into all the way to assembly lines, and that movement is just going to go richer and richer and richer. The other part is obviously when things go richer, that goes back to governance, security, responsible DevOps. What is ethical software development? That is very complex now, because there's ethical AI, which can be a part of that software development cycle. So that becomes a bigger topic, which wasn't necessarily an issue, let's say 10 years ago, but suddenly now it is. So, and then that goes back to also the speed, scalability, productionizing, and actually reducing the cost. We have to be able to look into moving from, and that goes to microservices. So this concept of going from monolithic to microservicing, fast changes, being able to track, measure things, and go into moving and consistently reducing the cost, and helping people collaborate and create a poetic ecosystem between a CEO to all the way to an analyst, and create happiness. So that's the story.
I love when we talk, Mon. We want to get poetry, happiness, and peace and joy, and technology all bundled in together. So we will definitely get back to that as we go on. Let's move now into a bit more of a conversation about your particular product. We've started to touch on it, but I really want to get to the heart of what it is around Rancher and GitLab that is making such a huge difference for your clients. So maybe starting again with you, Shannon, I would love to have a bit of a breakdown of what are the key customer types. What are the people that are coming to you with problems that you're solving? They may not know their problems until you solve them for them. But I'd love to get an understanding of them, their maturity levels generally in Kubernetes. Is it certain type, or is it all over the spectrum? And then really those benefits. We talked about cost, but the clarity of those benefits they get from working with Rancher.
Yeah, John, it's a big journey. I mean, what we find these days is that, where Rancher fits in the ecosystem is it is the far and away leading platform for managing Kubernetes clusters. It's an open source project. It's been around now for 4 or 5 years, and it basically is how organizations are weaving together Kubernetes everywhere. What happened in this kind of infrastructure layer with the emergence of Docker and then the emergence of Kubernetes as an orchestrator around it is we basically got a standard. We got a standard way of packaging up software and then running that software reliably. And as that emerged, all of a sudden, I think, there's this kind of realization that it's showing up everywhere right now that we can actually standardize how we deploy our software regardless of the underlying platform. So we're in this moment where, today it's almost the exact opposite, right? If I'm in Amazon, I need a DevOps expert for AWS. If I'm on vSphere, I need someone who knows that infrastructure really well. If I'm on bare metal, or if I'm in the edge, or if I'm in an embedded system, if I'm talking about, the code that goes in a car versus the code that goes in a data center, I've got just a massively different set of expectations on the DevOps engineer I'm hiring. And suddenly we have Kubernetes and containers, and actually we can unify all these things. We can standardize not just the how we package the code or the API we call, but even the operating logic, right? How to do high availability, how to do reliability, how to be able to implement security and push that down. And we can do that everywhere. And so Kubernetes itself is almost like it's a cell, right? It's a set of servers, physically near each other, grouped into a single thing. And Rancher is the layer that ties all those cells together. So we provide for our customers, unification of Kubernetes and unification of Kubernetes across, hosted in the cloud, running in their data center, sitting out on the telco edge, sitting in the distributed system edge. And what we do at that level is let organizations take advantage of the fact that they've got this new layer that exists everywhere, centralize how they provision, centralize how they manage users, set global policies. But most important, much more than all that, we make it easy for teams to use. We focused on usability, we focused on time to value. And so, teams use Rancher, there's 30,000 teams around the world using Rancher. It's open source, so it gets picked up very quickly. And, I think we have something 400 or 500 customers now around the world, in every country and every continent. And they are almost all, they come to us already in production, right? They're already using the software, they're already using the technology, and they're calling and saying, "Hey, we'd love to work with you guys. We need support. We're pushing this live next week. Can we sign up and start working with you on a support agreement?" And so, the transformation it's a totally different way of thinking about technology adoption, right? I'm used to working in the tech industry. My answer was always, let's get in the client, let's do a POC, let's send out an SE, we'll teach you guys how to use this. And I remember the first call we got from Australia maybe 4 years ago, when we were just 3, 4, 5, 10 people. And one of the largest insurance companies in Australia is like, "Hey, we are rolling this out at scale. We love this product. You guys have done an amazing job. Can we start working with you guys?" And we're like, we need to get someone on a plane down there and go find out all the stuff they're doing. And it's been, as we've moved from working with insurance companies to retailers to, governments and military and telcos and, you name it, space organizations, CNNs and Fox Sports, and everyone has the same challenges, that they're trying to standardize how they deliver. They need to do it securely, and they have to reduce the burden, right? The burden of building your own infrastructure stack is just ridiculous, right? You just can't do that. Even if you are Uber, you probably shouldn't be doing that. You definitely can't do that if you're anyone else. So all that is kind of the value Rancher brings together. We take this stuff, we give you an open, standard way to connect it, and we allow you to avoid that sort of continuous approach that everyone's always trying to lock you into their platform, their cloud. And instead, with Rancher, you get an open platform that's being used by everyone, and allows you to kind of scale your growth and grow your adoption of containers and Kubernetes very, very easily. That's been our key for sure.
Phenomenal. So it sounds like the business case writes itself. Effectively, the dev teams are already in there actively using it, open source, getting involved, and they go, "Okay, this is working. Need a bit of support. Need to get the best out of this platform to scale it." And so what a great sales model. Network effect sales.
It's all product-led sales, right? The whole new way of thinking is, we're creating new open source projects every year, 2 or 3 sometimes. Some of them land with a thud, and we just can't, nobody seems to see the value or want to use it. And we invest in it, we try it, and then we move on. If it doesn't, last year we rolled out something called K3S, which is a really lightweight distribution of Kubernetes kind of tuned for the edge. And within within 2 months, we knew we had a hit. It was just, everyone was using this. And so this is how you can, with limited resources that a company like Rancher, we're 250 people, right? We're not going to be IBM tomorrow. We have to get innovative technology in the hands of practitioners and let them run, and then follow on to connect to them all.
Fantastic. Now we've got some questions coming in. I'll come back to you those in a moment, Shannon, around time to value or time to utilization. I think you've already started that, as well as the security elements and the importance of security, particularly in heightened risk times that we're in. Come back to you on those. But over to you, Mon. Same question. Tell us about the customers, the use cases. How do people get started with GitLab? What is that? What are those trends that you're seeing that are helping you scale so quickly?
So the customers would vary in different stages of their DevOps maturity. So we would it go all the way from actually where people are just looking into agile project management level, how to actually use that, into actually all the way to just using GitLab for security as well for their software applications, into looking into helping them build their CI/CD pipelines, and so earlier, there are customers with the myth that it is source code management only, and then after that, when they realize that it's one single application and how easy it is to use, and how it's easy to connect all these different audiences, whether you're a Scrum Master to a QA engineer, that's where that beauty of it kind of comes together, and we are able to actually go through various different teams of within an organization, as well as various different levels of their maturity, it doesn't matter if you've done DevOps or you are in that journey of thinking about containerizations or multi-clouds, or you've actually never looked into a DevOps framework. So all of it would be GitLab's customers.
Fantastic. And frame that proposition. Why GitLab? Why does a company just starting with DevOps to one that's looking to scale? Hello, my beautiful wife's just joining me in my webinar here. Welcome to COVID. Whatever journey they're on, GitLab's a must because.
So GitLab is a must because it's open source. It's one single application that goes from all the way to creating an idea of a software to production of it, integrated to a lot of different systems, whether it's instant Kubernetes, Google Cloud, Amazon, all of it, and user-friendly, irrespective of the audience. So one of the main thing about it is different audiences can actually speak together in this one application and collaborate, speak the same technical language, and most importantly, in our platform, literally everybody can contribute to make GitLab better. So we take feedback instantly and we work on it. So this is a platform to create magical software applications and happy dreams through COVID and beyond.
Well put. I love it. I love the translation, the way you frame that, particularly as more of a commercial business guy than deep in the tech. The fact that your platform helps multiple people speak the same language is quite a breakthrough, because that's always been the challenge, is the gap between the two. So, yeah. Is there anything more you can say about that, Mon? How you actually do that translation?
So if you think about it, so a lot of because a lot of people in their software cycle, they end up using a lot of different tools, and a lot of different tools. So you have a ticketing system to understand how you're going in the project, and then let's say a developer then goes and codes in a different platform, and then that code is then packaged for the QA to see how that goes in their ecosystem. And then somewhere down the line, you got to figure out, we need to automate this and then integrate. So then you get another tool to actually just automate all of that. And they all are specialized in different ways. And so what GitLab does is that one platform where doesn't matter your QA person, doesn't matter your business owner, doesn't matter your CEO, you actually are able to go through this in this one way, and because it's so easy to use, you don't really necessarily need to know and translate into the details of actually just thinking of it just like a DevOps engineer. You don't have to be a DevOps engineer to actually use that. So that easiness and user-friendly actually helps in that collaboration. The other part also cool is actually being able to measure through every outcome as well. So through every stage of it. And I think, John, you and I had spoken earlier about the value stream management about it as well. So being able to have a lean thinking of measuring through every part, that is hard when you're actually using so many different tools, speaking so many different languages. So this is one single application where everyone, no matter who you are, can use it. And every step of the day, you can measure it and see the outcome of it. And we believe in something called minimal viable changes before minimal viable product. So every change is controlled and measured, and different people can concurrently work on it together.
I love it. It makes sense to me, and that's pretty important. If it can make sense to me, it can make sense to pretty much anyone. Shannon, back to you, and some of these questions from the floor. A little bit about Rancher and how easy it is to deploy. So how quickly the dev teams actually get going? You said it's pretty quick, but how quickly do they get going, learn your tools, and time to value, time to benefit? How does that flow?
Yeah, it's kind of two phases, John. I mean, the reality is that an individual team, grabs Rancher, starts using it, maybe with some infrastructure in AWS or on top of their vSphere or something, and they're often up and running that day. Maybe within the first week, they've got the system going. But that tends to just be the beginning of the journey in an organization. It's kind of like you start off with with a group that's sort of excited about it, using it, rolling out Kubernetes, managing their apps, building catalogs, getting into Kubernetes security and monitoring, and at some point, again, there's this shift from sort of centralized, or from decentralized thinking about the stuff to centralized thinking about the stuff. And so, the first level of value of just being able to run an application reliably and, kind of deliver your infrastructure well is a very low bar. I mean, you really see people there within days, if not weeks. But to achieve that next level, where as an organization, you understand how people are using the technology, how they're securing the technology, how they're able to now deploy to different types of infrastructure. That's a bit more of a bigger bar because it takes policy, it takes you thinking about it, it takes you building a strategy. And so I personally, as I seem to spend more time these days talking with executives about their strategy for containers and Kubernetes and for DevOps, and talking about how to take what worked really well with a few small groups that got quick value out of this and now bring it to the rest of the organization. And there's a couple things that have been really key I've noticed. One is bringing in those early teams that maybe adopted GitLab and Rancher and are on the bleeding edge of continuous delivery and better software development, and how giving them a big say in what's important. And often what you'll find is the thing they prioritize the most that often is missed is flexibility. They don't end up saying, hey, what I really want for you is to figure everything out for me. They actually will say, I need flexibility. The more you can give me as tools and capabilities and options and things I can turn on, the better. But I think a lot of organizations really bought into the idea of platform as a service, PaaS, tools like CoFounder and OpenShift, that these sort of very opinionated, very constrained platforms that were built, really in 2010 to 2016, 17. And the results were pretty unimpressive. And usually they became that because developers just didn't like the tools, right? That given the option, they would rather be choosing something like GitLab than taking a sort of fully integrated product that gives you, tells you this is how you're supposed to write code and this is the approach you're supposed to take to data services. And, it just doesn't ever keep up with the pace of real innovation happening out there. Mm-hmm. And so I remember the first time I ran into GitLab was at an innovation team over in Germany. It was probably 2015, 2016. It was a steel company, right? You couldn't imagine a more old school company. And they had this business unit that was trying to develop a full marketplace for steel futures and trading and all these things. And they had they were using Google Cloud, GitLab, and Rancher. And I'm like, what's GitLab? And the guy shows it to me. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. They've really taken the idea of Git and run with it to build a much more comprehensive platform. And one of the things I remember from the day is like, yeah, and the best part is I can choose to use this piece and this piece, but if I've already got something over here, I don't need to use that. They built it in a way that's very modular. And that stayed with us, and it actually influenced a lot of how we thought about Rancher as the Kubernetes ecosystem matured, and we thought about, okay, we have to solve storage, and we have to solve, different types of security tooling and networking. How do we build a platform that is pluggable, that allows you to turn functions on very easily? So you get a lot of value, but the box isn't a box. It's more like a cupboard, right? You can open it up, pull things out, and if you choose from the cupboard, man, it's super easy, it's quick, it's you know what you're going to get. But it's always your choice. That's been the key learning that, to me, was sort of unlocked. Taking the success of a group of developers, centralizing it, and then being able to take it out. Most people don't want to build their own CI/CD pipelines. In fact, 9 times out of 10, they'd be, so once they touch it and understand it, they understand how to use GitLab's awesome runners, they would jump at using those. But sometimes they need the choice. They can't be forced to use those things, and giving them choice and flexibility is really key to making these things work centrally. So the real value comes when you get to that point, when your organization has a rich set of tools they can grab, they can use, and everything they're touching is secure, and everything that they're doing, as long as they're in that sort of walled garden, will meet your requirements. And then if they need to go off and do something maybe a little more innovative, you worry about getting that part validated and secured and through your compliance teams, not everything for each project over and over again.
Fantastic. And I think you've done a great job of doing Mon's job for it here about saying how amazing GitLab is and time to value. And I will get to you in a second, Mon. Shannon, just to close out there, security. What does a customer need to know about when working with Rancher? What security concerns, challenges, how do they have to think about that?
The first part of all of security tends to come down to just visibility. Right. It always seems to be that most organizations, it's like, for those of you who are technical, the first time you're dealing with change and you put in tripwire, right? It doesn't really stop anything. You just need to know. You need to know what's happening. And the same is kind of true when you get started with Kubernetes. The challenge right now is it's very decentralized. It's like everybody's got it, and it's all different stages, and it's running in different ways. So security, point one is learn what everyone's doing. Get central visibility, get audit, understand what's happening. Then step two is to begin to build policies and to begin to describe what's allowed, what's not allowed, what people are allowed to do, what systems are allowed to do, and that means coming up with ways to describe policy. What's great about the Kubernetes ecosystem is really maturing quickly in this way. There's this great program called OPA, Open Policy Agent, that allows you to kind of set up and define policies centrally. It's been in Rancher now for a few releases and really has become a very key way to not just say what users are allowed to do and what systems need to look like, but also to describe things like network policies about how individual components of an application can talk to each other securely. So the security in this layer, I think it's tremendous, and I think it's especially tremendous because it's portable, right? Security that you can define once and apply to your AWS infrastructure, your stores, your factories, your data centers, your development environments, your embedded systems, your network core. I mean, this is what's so exciting, right? It's one thing to make it make deployments consistent, but if we can actually make security policy consistent across all of this stuff, we're going to save so much money. It's just going to save an enormous amount of time, DevOps engineering time, and actually really improve security. So I'm very bullish on the long-term impact of unified computing, and that's what Kubernetes gets us.
Love it. So Rancher effectively strengthens or hardens Kubernetes and makes it simpler and easier to deploy security across the broad range of activity.
Yeah, we're the central beating heart of all of your Kubernetes. That means we're the place you live, all your policies live. We're the place that checks to make sure they're actually being implemented, make sure they're all configured correctly, and distributes them all effectively. Ensures that no one's allowed, no one can change things they're not allowed to do. Integrates with your active. Top to bottom, we really address what it means to run a secure platform and adopt Kubernetes.
Awesome. All right, Mon, over to you. Time to value. How do customers get going on GitLab? How quickly does it take for them to be effective and deliver value, or does GitLab to deliver value to them, their team, their organization?
So it is pretty much as instant as it can be. So you just, there we also have community edition, so people can just literally get in there and start playing with it. Now, but then to actually go into understanding the problem of your organization, and then using tools to actually solve that takes a little bit of art, that takes a little bit of strategy, that takes a little bit of understanding your team structure, their skill sets as well. But as a platform, it is easy to use, it's instant, but there are also details of, so if you have certain sort of cloud, so if you're Azure versus AWS versus Google, and then are you deploying Kubernetes or not, so that sort of little details, there's that would take based on the adoption rate of the organization, but in general, yes, it's pretty instant and it's pretty easy to use, and very scalable as well.
Awesome. And security, what do clients need to be thinking about the security aspects or the integrations, or what does GitLab mean for security in their organization?
So there are two parts to it. So as a platform, similar to, I think, mirror what Shannon said, so there's this transparency and visibility needed. And so through every step of the way, there is audit of that and a trail of the audit that is actually given to you. From a software perspective, if you want to understand you're building a Java app, and how if you want to do things like container scanning, license scanning, so we do have a security framework that actually helps you defend through every step of the stages of your life cycle as well. And we have another thing that we call auto DevOps, which has an embedded security framework by itself, so you don't, as a DevOps engineer, have to worry as to if you're installing a Python package or things like, are you breaching security? So it gives you vulnerability scans instantly as well. So then it goes back to actually the organization governance and what is considered vulnerable to you and not, and then we train it accordingly to get you as to where you're at. But agree with Shannon, there needs to be a little bit more standardization and centralization of security as well.
Fantastic. Now we've got some questions coming in on the Q&A, which is great as well, some more. So let's get to those as we've got a few minutes left. For both of you, could I use, and this is from Raj, could I use Rancher and GitLab to develop a self-service container platform for an enterprise? So let's take that one.
Yes.
You wouldn't be alone doing it. I think you'd be joining an enormous number of people that are bringing these two pieces together, because what Rancher gives you is this layer that unifies all your Kubernetes. It kind of treats hosted Kubernetes and on-prem Kubernetes and everything else the same, and centralizes to manage that. And then GitLab has a beautiful integration to Kubernetes. So as you use Rancher to spin up environments, spin up clusters for people or namespaces as a service, those get connected directly to your GitLab environments, and then teams can go crazy, right, Mon? I mean, it really is, the ease of use of GitLab is hard to understate. It's a fantastic product.
Fantastic. So that's a big yes, Raj. Next one from Marcus. How does GitLab use Rancher for multi-cluster management? Touched on it a little bit, but maybe a little bit more on that if we could.
Yeah, so you can have a multi-cluster arrangement with GitLab. It depends on how you actually set it up to be able to monitor it. So it can be set up on project levels, group levels, and be able to, and then you can monitor and govern it accordingly as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. Anything you want to add there, Shannon?
I mean, some of the more interesting ones I'm seeing, John, right now, are actually in the edge. We're working with just this, during all this COVID stuff, amazingly, we're working with 2 or 3 large cruise lines. And they're, interestingly, one of them, they've got all the ships into port. And so now they're re-platforming them, and they're building out Kubernetes as the structure on those ships. And what they're dealing with now is, if you can think about it, centrally connecting to, up to 100 ships at sea, all of which are running multiple Kubernetes clusters. And on the back end, they've got GitLab, doing a lot of their CI/CD and deployment pipelines, Rancher running Kubernetes, and central sort of ops team making sure that everything is available, secure, policies are in place. And developers, it's like they're provisioning to AWS, right? That's what. I was talking recently with one of the largest supermarket chains here in the U.S. We were rolling this out, and their first step was the data center, and now the next step is to put this in every store, because they want to replace the server racks that are in the back of the stores with micro clusters, and they're gonna have those live in before the end of this year, and it really is down to, well, we want that cloud experience everywhere, right? We want to be able to have that same simplicity of provisioning, that same ability to scale up services, the ability to run machine learning and better, all sorts of different types of kind of more complex applications, the Kafkas, MongoDBs and other services they're trying to push out to different places. So I think you're seeing multi-clusters becoming just, infrastructure. All infrastructure, 5 years from now is going to have a Kubernetes API that'll allow you to control it and talk to it. And so we're very much pushing that forward, and very big believers that Linux, Kubernetes, infrastructure, it's all converging, and it's tools like Rancher that sit in the role of policy and monitoring and operations, and tools like GitLab that focus on developers and their efficiency and how they are able to deploy, run, and secure workloads. That's this is going to be the backbone of the new cloud, right? Because the cloud is no longer the cloud. The cloud is just the original meaning. It's everything. Everything is the cloud.
Mm. Awesome. All right, last question, and then we'll get to a wrap. We're going to go a couple of minutes over time, but we're really close. So, do we have any views on net DevOps? Another question from Raj. The answer can be no. But
well,
net DevOps.
Yes. I mean, net DevOps is just an extension of DevOps, where it's just adding few more audiences to it. So both where network architects as well as operators, they are able to talk to each other and share the same DevOps framework within that. And through that view, I think a lot of these new kind of concepts are going to come, because this DevOps framework is now extended to different audiences. So there's going to be net DevOps, there's going to be DevSecOps, there's going to be data ops, there's going to be MLOps. So all of it is just fundamentally that framework of DevOps extended to all the different audiences. So everyone can actually then talk to each other, and it's no more about those siloed teams or the siloed tools or the siloed process. Everything actually flows harmoniously. So similar to DevOps, the cultural movement.
The scaling, getting into all the nooks and crannies. I love it. All right, we're going to wrap. 30 seconds each. You're pitching to a CEO or a board member. They're concerned about customer satisfaction, growth, innovation, employee satisfaction, cost management, all of these things, and you're going, why Rancher, Shannon?
It really is innovation. I mean, I always come back to the same thing. The gap, that time period between brilliant idea emerging among your business units, your whatever it is. How do we get a better experience for our customers? And then time to deliver is the single biggest challenge for most traditional companies, to be honest with you. That this is where most companies are beaten over and over again by startups, right? It's just the time between idea and execution. And what's happening is that's compressing. Tools like Rancher are dramatically simplifying that pipe so that it really is continuous delivery. And I'd put GitLab right there with us in solving that problem.
Awesome. And Mon, to you, why GitLab?
Yeah, so GitLab as an application, it would help you in the dropped in cost of your software transaction, and would give the audiences the freedom of choice, choice of different of how you actually want to do, as well as put a defend and control of the centralizing of the whole thing put together, so everyone can collaborate freely, and literally may contribute every day and make the product better. and everything goes back to what Shannon said. It's all about continuous integration, continuous delivery, and automation at its peak. So at the end of it, you use GitLab and you spend more time actually solving real problems, and let these softwares and do the problems that you don't want to actually spend a lot of time on.
Happy developers.
Happy developers.
Happy developers making great software and changing the game for customers. That was so good. Thank you, guys. That went really quickly, but we got to the heart, I think, of the amazing things your businesses are doing. Really appreciate your time. Appreciate everybody who dialed in today to have a listen. We'll get this one up on the web as well for you to share with your networks of people as well. But really great day. Really great conversation. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here.